JBG, turn me up.
To the angel of the church of Ephesus write, these things says he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, who walks in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands.
Revelation 2:1 says, unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, these things says he that holdeth the 7 stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. Alright, so if you've been paying attention from the last 2 chapters I did, chapter 9 of Revelation and chapter 1, and we've been unraveling how, one, there was no churches 2,000 years ago. The oldest church they got is like 1,700 years old. That's how far back it goes. So you're still missing almost roughly 300 some years. So you can't use that. And you can't say that those that was following Judaism, when they was gathering who's supposed to be followers of the message of Jesus, what they was gathering in was considered churches. See, that's games you're playing, because you can't use that. You can't say because those were the so-called first fruits of what would eventually turn into some kind of, remember, Christianity didn't come into 300 some years after Jesus so-called dead. You had what, Constantine, who came 300 some years later, had what, the Nicaea Council 325, and then Christianity came sometime after that. We talking about 325 AD. You see, so you can't have, and if you go back to that point, that's a little around that same timeline, 1,700 years ago, and some change. So you can't even say 2,000 years ago, because if you go back 2,000 years ago, now you're talking about when Rome was established. You see how they play games? This is why I was telling y'all that the book of Revelation was not revealed 2,000 years ago. There was no such thing as a book. They didn't have books past 400 some years ago, maybe 500 some years ago. You have to go into in Europe when they invented the printing press. So there was no books. And the fact they keep impressing these statements upon people, and people are so brainwashed and hypnotized by the spirit forces of religion, the Bible in this case, is why they don't reason and do dates to look at all this stuff. Alright, so at this point, you have the 7 churches, the 7 angels are just the 7 orbs. The planet, the grand conjunction of 1962, which is, you had the sun, that's 1, the moon is 2, the earth is 3, Mars is 4, Saturn is 5, Mercury is 6, and Jupiter is 7. Those are the 7 churches, the 7 angels, the 7 candlesticks, the 7 spirits. And I showed you in the nature books how planets are called spirit people, and also the gods of the elements. Alright, Noon clarifies all of these things. So there's no candlesticks. There's no man walking around with fire burning in his eyes with a sword coming out of his mouth. That's all deception. That's not symbology. When you talk about proper symbology, you will use something that a person would understand that's not abstract. Like if they said, when you look at a cartoon and they flash a light bulb over someone's head, or they put a light bulb there, you know that represents an idea. a thought. That's not too abstract. That's not far-fetched, right? Or if you see a skull with two bones across it, it represents what? Death, pirates, danger. That's not too far-fetched. But when you're telling me that you think a man with fire in his eyes and all this, and his hair was like wool, it's no such thing as a Caucasian with woolly hair unless they have a certain kind of disease that makes them grow kinky hair. That's not natural. That's a disease, and it causes them to have pain for kinky hair to grow out of their skull. I went into that on another video some time back. But let's look at these 7 candlesticks or lampstands. All right, so this is what they're telling you. This is what they're showing you. All right. I had By Noopooh make this for me. All right, so this is what the candlesticks, which they call it religiously the menorah. But this is, I had to turn it upside down so you can understand what was really there. And I counted them. See, this is when the grand conjunction was there. See, Mars, Saturn, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, what is this? Mercury, Venus, and I think there's Jupiter. I'm sorry. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So yeah, those are the 7 candlesticks and all that. Why? Because in the core of every orb that exists, in the middle of the moons, the middle of the planets, and the sun all have fire cores. Meaning there's heat, tremendous heat in the cores. So this is why they're called lampstands. Because there's fire in the cores of all the orbs, which are their brain cores. Okay? If you have the nature books and some reasonability, you know what I'm telling you understand that. With a scientific mind, you equal stand that. All right, so here go the explanation. This quote is talking to Alpha Uno in reference to the February 5th, 1962 Aquarius stellium grand conjunction. The sun is holding the 7 orbs in his gravitational pull. At that time, they met within degrees of each other. All right, the great Aquarian conjunction of February 4th through 5th, 1962. Between February 4th and 5th of 1962, all of the visible 7 planets, the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, were transiting the sign of Aquarius, something that happens only every so many thousands of years. Was this official beginning of the Aquarius age? This site says yes. While the closest bunching of these planets occurred just after midnight London time on February 5th, the whole 2-day period, 10:57 p.m., February 3rd to 10:53 p.m., February 5th London time, is the official entry period. Alright? And this is just showing you how close in degrees there was. On February 5th, 1962, 12:11 a.m. London time, Mars is at 2 degrees Aquarius. Saturn was 3 degrees Aquarius. The Sun was 15 degrees Aquarius. The Moon was 15 degrees. Mercury is 16 degrees. Venus 17 degrees. Jupiter 18 degrees. And they say all this was in 16 degrees of each other. This is why it's called a grand conjunction, because every so many thousands of years this takes place. And this is how it looks on the natal chart. Alright? These 7 churches are listed below. Ephesus, gematria numerically comes out to 30. Mars comes out to 30. This is why I was trying to tell y'all that these are falsely called churches. right? But they can be considered the house of God because all of these are like Jesus said, in my Father's zodiac house are many what? Mansions. These planets are the mansions in the zodiac houses. And they all got their own what? House. Alright, so Ephesians is numerically Mars. Alright? Pergamos equals 94. Numerically, it's the sun, Helios. Alright, let's keep it going. Thyatira, 51. What orb is that? The moon, 51. What's next? Sardis, 70. What orb is this? Mercury, which means thief. What's next? Philadelphia, which we know was what? The brotherly love, as they say. 65. Venus, the lover planet. You can't make this stuff up. Okay? What's next? Laodicea, 50. What orb is this? Jupiter, planet Jupiter, which is planet Zeus in noon. That's one of Jupiter's names is Zeus.
50. I know your works, your labor, your patience, and that you cannot bear those who are evil. And you have tested those who say they are apostles and are not, and have found them liars. And you have preserved and have patience, and have labored for my name's sake, and have not become weary.
I know thy works and thy labor and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil, and thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and hast found them liars. Revelation 2:3. And has borne and has patience, and for my name's sake has labored and has not fainted. Explanation. Noopooh was telling Afro Uno, Johnny Eugene Brown, they know how hard it was being born in a racist country 61 years after slavery ended, and how the conditions of evil tried his patience. Secondly, Afro Uno Johnny knew the religious people of his time were using religion to further keep Ethiopian black people in bondage. Bible Interpretation Explanation Booklet 1, 1967, which was written by Johnny Eugene Brown, Afro Uno, known as Amanumi Rakapata at the time. And it states, forward, there is a spell upon the Ethiopian willow-haired people the world over, and it is a spell of spiritual ignorance and racial indifference cast upon by the Ethiopian by Leviathan from the Caucasian and his Bible. And this is why no one has been able to really unite the Ethiopian in any considerable numbers. And it's also why the people of African descent have not been able to make real progress toward freedom and equality. With the help of the Caucasian, Leviathan, the god of the Caucasian, hypnotized the Ethiopian with his magic powers and sealed the hypnosis with spiritual ignorance and racial indifference. The only way the spirit can be broken and the Ethiopian be free again, and free indeed, is that the spiritual ignorance be destroyed by spiritual knowledge and understanding, and the racial indifference be destroyed by racial knowledge and understanding. So understand that wherever we are found on the planet Earth, where we cannot come together and unite, this is the core reason. Leviathan. Alright? That's the core reason, and the Bible. And Leviathan works through the Bible, religion in general, but in this case, this is one of the main core reasons we cannot unify. And I'm saying we. It is futile trying to hypnotize, trying to hypnotize people without using the magic formula that will reverse the hypnotic spell, which is keeping them in captivity. Part of the magic formula to reverse or destroy the evil hypnotic spell of Leviathan in this booklet. It is futile trying to unite so-called Negroes physically without first uniting them mentally. If we can achieve mental unity, we are automatically united physically because a person talks and acts the way that he or she thinks. Hence, the results of ignorant thoughts are ignorant words and ignorant works. If the minds of those of a kind are enslaved, that kind is enslaved no matter where they may be. If the minds of those of a kind are free, the physical persons are free or will soon be free, because the mind is the control and thereby determines the course that the person or persons will take. When the mind is out of order, the person is out of order. When the mind of Ethiopians are divided, the physical persons are divided. Common knowledge, meaning knowledge that all of the mass majority of Ethiopians will understand and accept, will unite our minds. There can be no mental unity as long as the spell of spiritual ignorance is upon us, and there can be no physical unity as long as the spell of racial indifference is upon us. When destruction of the spell is complete, the Ethiopian will have a free and united mind. Right knowledge by help of the force of nature will destroy the evil spell of confusion, ignorance, apathy, and disunity among Ethiopians. Right knowledge is designed to free, discipline, and unite the minds of Ethiopians. Then the rest of our heritage will come as sufficient effort is made. Right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding are the magic formula necessary to counteract and destroy the evil hypnotic spell of Leviathan. Because right knowledge causes the Ethiopian to think right and take the right step towards liberty, justice, and equality by help of the forces of nature. This booklet 1, provides some of the questions and answers necessary to break the evil spell. When the spell is broken, the spell and its evil results of disunity, hate for each other, disorder, apathy, and oppression will pass away from the Ethiopian and other oppressed peoples. All Ethiopians who accept the answers and explanations in this booklet and the facts of other booklets that may follow will soon be liberated from oppression and captivity and be equal. The Ethiopian lost his and her spiritual powers long ago, but this booklet will help us regain them by helping to destroy ignorance, because without the restoration of our own spiritual powers, we can never be free and equal again. Our spiritual powers are in Noopooh, pronounced Noopooh. The spiritual signs of the Ethiopian, the willing-haired people all over planet Earth. Bible interpretation and explanation, book 1 by Amenubi Rakapata / Afro Unu. And today, Noopooh is officially and scientifically known as Noon.
Nevertheless, I have this against you, that you have left your first love. Remember, therefore, from where you have fallen. Repent and do the first works, or else I will come to you quickly and remove your lampstand from its place, unless you...
Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Explanation. Noopooh was speaking to Mother Earth. Revelation 2:5. Remember therefore whence thou art fallen, and repent, and do the first works, or else I will come unto thee quickly, and I will remove thy candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. Alright, now this, once again, this is the lampstand, which I told you, this is the deception of how the bottom half Zupu 6 ether works. So once again, these is Mars, Marsha, Saturn, Saturna, the Sun, Ripu, the Moon, Sipu, Mercury, Mary, Venus, Vena, Jupiter, Jutau, and then we have Mother Earth, Gertha right here. Well, her and Sipu, which is the Moon, is on the same lampstand. Alright, so I told you, even though in the zodiac, they don't have her in here, but in the zodiac, the Earth is in the center. But you never, when you look at signs and symbols and stuff like zodiac signs and things like that, for the orbs or the satellites, the planets, you don't see Earth in there, but she's there. She's in the center when you look at the zodiac house and stuff like that. But that's, just do some research and you'll understand where I'm coming from. Explanation. Listen to reason. Organic sex intercourse does not happen in the top half of the smart circle of order. Therefore, Mother Earth, who is impregnated spiritually by non-ether energy from the sun in the form of ether or lightning, gives birth to all physical living persons and things like people and vegetation. Mother Goddess Earth gives birth to persons and things directly from her person until she reaches her menopause at 9 North. See shape 28 ahead in this topic. Now from this point, persons and things including spirit gods and goddesses decline in standards and qualities to the fall in scientific death at point 6 East. So this is what Noopooh is saying in the Bible, that you have left your first love. It wasn't by choice, because nature moves in circles and cycles. It couldn't be helped. So that's why I was telling you that the Bible editors edited out just enough to keep you stuck, but not enough to make you understand what's going on or what took place. This is a past situation. All right. And from this point, person things, including spirit gods and goddesses, declined in standards and qualities to the fall in scientific death at point 6 West. The hydropigmy is formulated and gestated in the non-nature ether clay womb of Mother Earth. See womb and non-ether clay in shape 25 on page 51 of this book, and is born at Introduction to the Nature and Nature Book 2, page 64 on part. Listen to reason, like all persons and things, the first fall of the spirit gods and goddesses of absolute nature was at point 6 West. See figure 3 on page 238 at the beginning of evolution on the smack circular order, when the sons died spiritual death called scientific death and universe science known as noon, and spirit beings became invisible. Like everything else, spirit beings fell to the horizon of existence and into the death cycle. The original fall of the gods by nature grew deeper and deeper down through evolution until the circle reached the bottom point 3 south of the bottomless pit. The bottom half of the order circle given in the preceding paragraph is the bottomless pit, because the shape of the bottom half of the circle is like a pit, and the smack circle is a circle of time instead of distance. Therefore, the circle has no physical bottom. Hence, the bottom half is called the bottomless pit by our ancestors, called the ancients. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Listen to reason. What may be called the second fall of gods and goddesses took place 6,000 years ago, when the Caucasian race was ghostized from the Phoenician and East Indian races. The so-called fallen angels are the moon god Mercury, also called Sin, Siva, Set, Hermes, Thoth, Anubis, etc. The earth god Dagon, also called Leviathan, Geb, Sobek, Poseidon, Neptune, Dagon, the dragon, the serpent, etc. And the underworld god Pluto, also called Osiris, Yama, Hades, Dis, Anubis, Ghost, Judge of the Dead, etc., etc. Because they rebelled against the sun god Reharakti, also called Taharakti, and created the Caucasian race via Adam and Eve 6,000 years ago. The writer says so-called fallen angels because it was the time for the moon cycle to begin, and therefore what happened in the Garden of Eden approximately 6,000 years ago was predestined by nature to happen the way it happened. Hence, the gods and goddesses involved did what they were supposed to according to the smack circle of order, so that the moon cycle could exist and run its course as it has done. So let it be remembered always, let it be known. Introduction to the Nature, Book 2, pages 239 and 240. Okay, now this is the smack circle order, where things start on the east horizon over 36 million years. So the fall of everything in existence, scientific death of the suns and everything started here. 18 million years, we ended up here, right here, where deception is so rampant that this is why you're seeing the things that you're seeing and experiencing the things you're experiencing and participating in the way that you're participating. Okay, but now that judgment time is over and it's sentencing time, you're seeing things come out now about Kanye West is now being made to tell what's going on in the industry. Diddy, it's a hairstylist that's writing a book, but she's on the run, and she's finna put out an all-tale book. A lot of information come out about what happened, and Kim Porter, rest in peace, had some laptops with a lot of video footage of sex parties of all these black entertainers with these other prominent businessmen. A lot of that's going on, being circulated, and they're using some of that footage against people who were standing up for Kyrie Irving. Now, those people who were involved in these Leviathan sex feud parties and things, they were forwarding some of these video footages to these people's phones and stuff to tell them to shut up and back down. So we're in that time now, sentencing time. So get ready. It's going to get a little bit more graphic than this as time moves forward. So be ready for that. So this is where we at point 3 south. The fall of nature started at 6 west depth section. So this is what the Bible quote is talking about when it said planet Earth left for first love. Everybody left their first love because Noopooh is primary. Yeah, you can stand. That's the true love, the first love, non-love.
But this you have, that you hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate.
But this thou hast, that thou hatest the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. Explanation. The Nicolaitans represented the corrupt sex forces in religion called Leviathan in Noon science. A common view holds that the Nicolaitans held the antinomian hearsay of 1 Corinthians 6. Although this has not been proved, one scholar expounded this interpretation. John Henry Blunt maintains that the comparison between the Nicolaitans and the Balaam proves that the fornication spoken of is not the crime under ordinary circumstances, but fornication connected with religious rites. Blunt points out that the Hebrews had a long history of preaching against or alternatively using cult prostitutes. Genesis 38:21-22, Deuteronomy 23:17-8, 1 Kings 14:24, 15:12, 22:46, 2 Kings 23:7, Ezekiel 16:16, Hosea 4:14. He also points out that the early Christians lived in a pagan culture where the worship of Aphrodite included Herodule, who engaged in ritual prostitution in her shrines and temples, and that the Dionysian mysteries used intoxicants and other trance-inducing techniques to remove inhibitions and social constraints of believers regardless of class or gender to enter into an animalistic state of mind. In other words, when they was into these sex cults, like they had in Kemet, Bassett was a sex cult, and also in Greece and all that, they have the Dionysian mysteries. What they did was they took all types of drugs and drinks that would enhance them and allow them to become more free. Things they would not do if they were sober or out and about. In these mystery sex cult places, it doesn't matter what your rank was. Like a person who was a CEO, which they do to this day, which y'all gonna find out soon enough, right? If Kanye keep talking and other people join in, you're gonna find out that a person that's a high-ranking individual would be able to lay with somebody or sleep with somebody that was just a regular person on the street. Things that wouldn't occur on the outside, right? People that you know you could never get with in your life. In these mystery schools, this is what they were doing all the way back then. Temple prostitutes. Look up some of these quotes that I just named. Blunt holds that the Nicolaitans either believed that the command against ritual sex was part of the Mosaic law, from which they had been freed by Jesus Christ, and it was licit for them, or that they went too far doing Christian love feasts. Blunt sees echoes of this behavior in the admonitions which Paul gives to the Corinthians, though he does not name them as such. Blunt also believes that similar echoes can be found in the admonitions of Jude chapters 4-16, which invokes both Balaam's error and love feast. and 2 Peter chapter 2, 2 through 21, which repeats most of the Jews' statements, including invoking Balaam. The trend began early in Christianity of applying the term Nicolaitans to describe other antinomian groups with no attachment to the historical Nicolaitans. Tertullian, in his prescription against heretics 33, is such an example. John, however, in the Apocalypse is charged to chastise those who eat things sacrificed to idols and who commit sexual immorality. There are even now another sort of Nicolaitans. There is called the gay and hearsay. So even in this, they're saying that people who engaged in that, they was labeled Nicolaitans, even though they had no connection with the people who were actually those people by race and location. You understand? Like, other people can call folks, like they'll say certain religious people, right, whether they're Christian or whatever, for like people who engage in same-sex activities, right, or behave that way. Some of them would call them or these are sodomites for the men that like men, and then Gomorrites for women that like women, right? But Sodom and Gomorrah, according to the Old Testament, was a place. So these people today, even though they have nothing to do with the people that actually live there, you understand, they would take that name because it represented a certain type of behavior and then gave that and labeled them that, if that makes sense. Irenaeus in at verses Heresy the third, page 9, it says, holds that the Gospel of John was written to counter the teachings of Cerinthus, which he holds was influenced by the Nicolaitans. Later, Augustine of Hippo ascribed to them Cerinthian doctrines concerning the creation of the world in his De Heresibus ad quod Voltidem. Victorinus of Pital held the error of the Nicolaitans was that they ate things offered to idols. Bede states that Nicholas allowed other men to marry his wife. Thomas Aquinas believed that Nicholas supported either polygamy or the holding of wives in common. Eusebius claimed that this sect was short-lived. A number of authors favor another opinion that the mention of the Nicolaitans is merely a symbolic manner of reference because of the allegorical character of the apocalypse. As a symbolic reference, according to this view, the teachings of the Nicolaitans refers to dominating the people compared to the teaching of Balaam, which refers to seducing the people in part. Wikipedia.org. Who was the serpent and how did it beguile Eve? The serpent was Leviathan, a giant sex and spirit force who was able to control peoples and nations by sex and by spirit generated from blood in the waters of the earth. Leviathan, who has many spirit members and parts distributed throughout the earth, was cast from the sun approximately 17,250,000 years ago, just before the evolutionary cycle began. The moon cycle is the climax of the evolutionary cycle. The serpent Leviathan is the moon god Sin, who hypnotized Eve and excited her womanhood by his forces, and in turn Eve excited Adam's manhood, and they had sexual intercourse, which was forbidden by the laws of the sun god, which is Jupiter or Jutar, because Adam and Eve were priests and nuns. Before Adam and Eve defiled it, sex was sacred, meaning it was used only out of necessity, not out of lust. The serpent Lucifer brought lust into the picture, and it does this through stimulating sex in various ways, and this is why it is called a sex force as well as a spirit force.